Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Carlton Wrap Podcast. I'm joined by Ari Stamatakos again as we run through the round 4 review against the Suns. Pretty raw emotion this podcast, but it's the same night as the game, as we're both up for the EPL later tonight. So, Ari, tell me how you're feeling. First loss of the season.
Oh, dejected, I think, is the overriding emotion. Disappointed and just frustrating because I was one of many preaching the 3-0, 4-0, 5-0 type operations. So to not maintain the perfect records, frustrating, especially in a game which we probably should have won in terms of pre-game and expectations. It was a game which we all thought would be pretty easy.
Final score: Gold Coast 13-14-92, Blues 8-14-62. I mean, I guess from start to finish, it was the same type of game. We got the first two, and look, it looked promising.
Yeah,
very nice. Charlie kicked our first. Can't remember who kicked our second,
Cripper.
but we were Cripps. That's right.
Yeah.
We're off to a good start, and I guess centre clearances. That's where it was at.
Which very surprising considering our main modus operandi for the past 3 games is win the centre at all times, and I think perhaps the way we dominated in the opening 3 rounds in clearances pretty much set a blueprint in terms of how to beat us, because the doggies, Richmond and Hawthorn, pretty much showed the comp what not to do against Carlton. So I'm pretty sure the Suns, I mean, I haven't rewatched the game. I don't really think I'm going to, but I'm assuming the Suns probably just did the opposite of what those 3 teams did, and they got on top of us.
Well, I guess first quarter, the major event was Cripps went off, left a right hamstring, one of the two, and we both said pre-podcast we think it's a precautionary thing. At least his body language after that event, he seemed okay, and he walked it off. But I guess it's something you only feel when you're running.
Yeah, I mean,
there you go.
Yeah, like I don't, like you were about to say, Kelly Underwood was saying 4 weeks. I mean, I doubt it, based off the fact that he came off at quarter time and didn't come out for the second half. So did you see anything within the first quarter that suggested that he may have done something? Did you see him hobbling at any stage?
Nothing. I mean, nothing that stood out. There was that. Yeah. There was the footage from inside the change room as he's walking past, and he acknowledged it.
Yeah.
Which he could have changed his walking a bit, but he seemed okay. He walked in, he seemed fine. And even his mood on the bench was okay. I didn't think he was getting that involved with the players during the game, though.
Yeah, I don't. I'm pretty sure he just, because he's the captain, it's kind of he's ought to stay on the bench and be that leader. But I think that there was footage in the change room of him running. I'm pretty sure that was him testing it to see if he was fit enough, and he seemed like he was running, or at least jogging, with relative freedom. So hopefully it is purely precautionary, and it's if he's felt something, let's not risk it, because if he does it for 5, 6, 7, 8 weeks, if he completely rips it, so I'd rather him be out for 2 or 3, and then rather than risk him being out for 7 or 8.
Well, I mean, when Cripps went out, I think it was a major problem straight away that we were 1 down in the midfield, but it did feel like we were 2 or 3 down in the midfield.
Yeah,
I guess we lost that big body. I mean, does that say anything about the team? Do we rely too much on him?
I mean, it's hard not to rely on a player that's got 9 Brownlow votes from his first 3 games, or at least 6, right? So it's a thing. You're in a predicament where he's been so good this season that everything is kind of catering around him because he's so good. Whereas to lose him mid-game kind of unexpectedly it does change things, because I reckon if we'd lost him pre-game, or if he was an out, like when the teams were named on Thursday and he was out, I think we would have been like better prepared and would have come up with strategies to compensate for him. But to lose him mid-game is, I mean, if you take Patrick Dangerfield out of the Geelong team mid-game, or Dustin Martin out of the Richmond team mid-game, it's going to make an impact no matter what, right?
Yeah, well, I guess when you talk about it like that, you can sort of see it in a better light.
Yeah.
I don't think Cripps is the problem. I mean, I guess it was definitely a ruck issue, and we couldn't do a lot. That sort of showed that TDK was, wasn't really ready for it.
Yeah.
But what can you do? And the problem is our follow-ups. Jack didn't really do that as much in the ruck until the last quarter, I didn't feel.
Yeah. I mean, he went in like around the ground and just some centre bounces throughout the game, but he started the fourth quarter in the middle, which it shows either one of two things. It shows a little bit of desperation by Voss in terms of let's just change something and let's just put TDK in the goal square and see what happens, or he's losing faith in him. And I really hope it's not the second one, but I think it's a matchup. Like, Witts falls into that category of Witts, your Sean Darcy's, these big, powerful ruckmen, right? And then if say we were versing, I don't know, St Kilda and Rowan Marshall was the ruck, you'd back TDK more in that, because it's pretty much two athletic players, like two players with freak athleticism going against it, whereas Witts was just able to bully De Koning out of the game, which hurt our midfield battle. It pretty much won them the game, because they were able to win every centre clearance pretty much, and then go from there.
Well, we were talking about that centre clearance game. That's what's won us the first three games, and I guess that was the first time we've really seen it being taken out of our game plan. That was I don't know if we had a plan B. I think we were really caught off guard. There's nothing evident that we were really comfortable when the Suns would get it out, move it forward. We just seemed a bit, I don't know, we weren't on the front foot a lot of the time, I thought.
Yeah, it was alarming when, I think it was the Suns' first goal or second goal, they walked it from a kick in, chip kick, and then a kick inside 50, and they've got a mark and a goal. That was probably the first red flag, which I don't think the coaching group picked up on. And I didn't even pick up on it until after the game. I think it was halftime when I saw it on Twitter and stuff. So it's trying to identify it early, and obviously their gameplay would have been centered around, we're winning the centre clearances, right? Because we've done that for the past 3 weeks. When that doesn't happen, it's the first time that it hasn't happened. So you give them, well, in my opinion, you give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that next week it's not the same story.
Well, I thought our game going forward was very risk versus reward, where we would really push up. Like as soon as we moved the ball forward, we'd push up. And as soon as we turned it over, we were completely screwed. That was where they'd get handball over the back, kick inside 50, mark, goal. And I don't know. I think we tried it a bit too much, and I think it got to the point where the Suns got out. I mean, I'd say the average margin was around 15 to 20 points that whole game. At least we were down by, and I think we just, we were always one goal off really pegging it back, and I think we could have played it safer with the time we had, especially in that third quarter. I think we tried to rush it quite a lot.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's very interesting just sitting here and talking about a game that hasn't really, hasn't gone our way, and we've been used to it going our way. And it's very hard to dissect when it looks like we played terribly, and maybe we did, but I think that just nothing really went our way.
Yeah,
it was just a different energy.
Yeah. I think we haven't played a good third quarter for the whole year. I remember Richmond got a foothold of the game after halftime. The Doggies started their comeback in the third, and then Hawthorn. I mean, this whole second half against Hawthorn was rubbish, right? But I mean, it was that halftime. Like at halftime, we were on 15 points. I think it was 14 points, and I remember thinking, all right, here's the test. Like here is the test. You're down by 3 goals against a team that you should be beating. No captain, no ruckman. What's this group made of? And then we come out, concede the first 3 goals, and then game over from there, pretty much. So frustrating in terms of we had that whole break, and then within a flash, pretty much it was gone from us. And I think that was the story of the day. Just everything that they did, just the ball bounced the right way, the right free kicks were given, everything we did just couldn't. It just wasn't there. Like nothing we did went right, and yeah, it sucked. It sucked because it just seemed that we never had a foot in the game from when they hit the front in the first quarter. It seemed from there that they were going to run away with it.
Well, statistically, I'm looking here, and we actually dominated. Well, no, I wouldn't say dominated, but we were winning most of the statistics. I mean, kicks, all your normal disposals, kicks, handballs were in our favour. Inside 50s, Gold Coast 64-48, which our average is season 56, so a bit lower than usual. Yeah. And 62 points from 48 entries. I mean, that's not too impressive. 8-14 is not too impressive either, but even a couple more goals in that fourth quarter would have been a couple junk time goals and probably would have made the margin around 20 in the end. Efficiency inside 50 was 50%. So better than Gold Coast. They were at 46.9. So just a lot of things not going right in the end. And the major one, the 2 major ones, hit outs 52-19. That does kill you. It does kill you. One clearances 43-27, which is, it sounds bad, but it's interesting because our average is only 35. So it wasn't actually a lot less than what we're used to. I don't think we're too efficient. We just weren't really. Usually we've seen a lot of set plays from the centre stoppages, and they know where they want to go. I didn't feel comfortable watching them today. I like the sort of the movement of Hewitt is very, very turning quite a lot more than he usually does. It's either a turn to the right, turn to the left, handball, Chera, ball in. I don't know. Didn't feel comfortable.
Yeah, I think it also was a lack of pressure because, maybe not pressure because we did have a lot of tackles, but intent from the midfield. And I think that goes to show with Chera having a poor game and Kennedy having an especially poor game. It just didn't work from the middle, and your midfield sets its own. And Anderson had a great game. Rao was very good. Took Miller, I mean, is a star, right? And then Witts absolutely killed us. So everything, it just seemed that their game plan just fitted perfectly into ours. It was a perfect game if you're a Gold Coast supporter or a coach. You couldn't have panned it out any better for them. And I mean, you have to give credit where credit's due because they've got some talented players on their list and they haven't really been able to put it together. But if they can play like that for the majority of the season, then they'll be up there. Maybe not this season, but definitely next season they'll be up there. But it's considering how dominant our midfield has been, to see him get smashed at the contest is very disappointing.
I want to talk about a bit of a funny moment. What did you think of Casbolt when he kicked that goal and pulls the jumper? I just want to know what you thought because I still haven't even thought. I just watched it and I was like, what have I just said?
Yeah. So I turned to my brother at that stage and I just laughed because I was like, all right, mate, you play for Gold Coast. Like if he was grabbing like the Geelong jumper or the Hawthorn jumper or like the Port Adelaide jumper, like a jumper with heritage and with like pride, I'd be like, all right, fine, like piss off type thing. But you're grabbing the Gold Coast jumper, like a relax. Like I love ya, and I've given you too many chances because you were shit for a lot of the time you were here. But I love ya, but piss off. It's Gold Coast, relax.
I was sort of thinking, I was like, good on you, fair enough.
Yeah,
Make a statement.
yeah.
But it holds the same value as kissing a Melbourne City badge.
Yeah,
it means nothing.
It means nothing.
It doesn't mean nothing. There's no value for that club. You are
yeah. There was it didn't. I think the intention of that was to piss Carlton fans off. It didn't piss me off. It just made me laugh. So I don't think he meant he definitely didn't achieve what he was meant to achieve from that. But
I think the commentary made it really awkward. I don't know.
Because he was meant to be this real like statement, like I'm a Gold Coast player, and then everyone's like, who gives a shit? No one cares.
It was a funny moment. I thought it was a very interesting moment in the context of the game, and I'd be surprised. I think he only kicked one goal.
Yeah.
It would have been interesting to see if he kicked another one. We'll move on to players. I mean, with what we've said about the game, I think is what most of us are feeling, and I guess because it's just, the night after the game, it's hard to really dissect it properly. We'll move on to the players. I mean, let's start with who impressed. I know it's hard to talk about it after a loss. It's always hard to sit here and think of people who stood out. Harry had quite a good game. He just didn't but he just didn't make like the impact. He felt like he was where he should be. Just didn't do much with it. 2-3 in the end.
Yeah, I mean, if that's 4-1, it's a different story type thing. But I think Harry and Charlie just were, I don't know, just something was off. Despite them getting in the right positions, having set shots in gettable positions, just something seemed off with them. And which is something after the Western Bulldogs game, which they went berserk in both of them. You'd want to see that type of performance, not every week, because kicking 9 between them every week's not attainable, right? But I felt like they could have had more of an impact than they did.
Well, I mean, this is what I've sort of gathered with Charlie, is that he plays a different type of game each week. He either has a really big impact where he'll find himself in every position he needs to be in, which is that Bulldogs game, or he'll have more of a quiet role where he'll be more of a ground ball getter and find himself more around the contest and not leading. And he seemed like he was trying to do those two things combined tonight. And there were times where both him and Harry were going for the ball, and something just didn't click tonight.
It's one of those things which I'm going to go back to a lot, is nothing went right. Nothing went right. And hopefully, I mean, we'll touch on the Port game later on, but hopefully it's not a pattern which we see too often. Hopefully it's one of those games which we'll look back on in 6-8 weeks' time and think, oh fuck, well that was the only game which we dropped, and it was like, oh well, it was one of those games.
Zach Williams was our top disposal getter on the afternoon twilight. 36 touches. I'm looking at his disposal efficiency, 72%, which is pretty good. I think that's around 26 effective touches. Just top of my head, I think that's around.
That is bang on correct, sir.
Yes, I think he played his role well. I mean, there's so much he could really do, and it'd make a significant impact to change the game. Him and Saad was pretty good.
Yeah, Saad was good.
We'll keep on Williams quickly, but we'll go to Saad. But Williams I was relatively impressed with. I think he stood up. He got his hands on the ball, especially when we're sort of stuck in that back pocket. He always was a relief handball, and created a bit of a pocket to get out.
Yeah.
What were your thoughts on him in the end?
He best game in the Carlton top, maybe. It'd be one of his better ones, I think.
Yeah.
He's a very what's the word? He takes risks. He likes to dare to take he bites the bullet a lot with his kicks, and he had 6 clangers today. But I don't necessarily mind that if it's trying to hit a 45, which if it lands, we're out and we're going to hit a goal. Obviously, you don't want that every time because that's turnover central, right? But if he goes for them, and I think he's capable enough to hit them more than he doesn't. If he goes for them, it seems that there's a pattern emerging with how he plays and where he's kicking and who he's kicking to. So I thought he found the pill exceptionally well. Thought he used it pretty well. Defensively, I thought he did his role. I think he was pretty accountable for his man. Probably our best on him and Saad, I reckon, are our two main ones. But pretty happy with his performance, and hopefully it's one of many. And hopefully it's one of many in games we win. So, because I reckon if we had won this game and he had that performance, we'd be lauding him and saying, yeah. So,
with Saad, we'll move to Saad and talk about defenders, because we were talking about this before, and certain players. So Saad had a pretty good game, and I think when we look at the whole defensive group, I think most of our goals conceded came off the midfield, if that makes any sense. Like the goals conceded were transition goals. I don't think it was a real poor defensive game in that sense. I just think we got killed in the midfield, and one thing fails, usually the next thing fails. So Saad played pretty well, had a couple good moments. I mean, when he gets running, he's very tricky. He's very tricky to play on, and he can provide such good passages. It's just unfortunate we didn't really make the most out of it. I think I don't know, sometimes I look at a player like Saad and think, geez, you could really, really get a lot out of this guy and make a lot more. You could probably create set plays around a player like Saad, purely based off speed.
Yeah, he's like quickest player in the comp. He'd be up there. I mean, he's rapid. So he was the only player really giving us that dare and that real aggression of halfback, because Williams was always a kick behind the ball, if that makes sense, whereas Saad was pretty much on the ball in terms of around the vicinity where he could get the release handball and go. When he gets going, he's lightning fast, and that's something we need to free up, because he could be a real weapon. And maybe not even, like, he doesn't have to kick the goals himself, but if he can take the ball maybe 80 metres out, or maybe 60, 70 metres out from our defensive goal, and then carry that 30, 40 metres, and then get it deep inside 50. He's a very useful, and he's a big asset when he gets going, and we saw that today.
Well, especially on those skinnier grounds as well, like Marvel and against the Bulldogs, he makes a lot of ground really quickly. Yeah. Let's move on to one of your favourites, Lockie Plowman. So we were talking before, and we said, look, if Plowman, as soon as we lose, people are onto Plow, no matter how good he play. And I've said this before, like I don't love Plow, I don't hate Plow. Like I rate him like he's a good player. I think he's got a really good footy mind. But seriously, for people to come out of that game and say that and point him out. Yeah. And I don't think he did anything that was like, oh, holy shit, like get him out of this team. I thought it was pretty poor calls, to be quite honest. Yeah. I'm looking now, 89% disposal efficiency, the second highest next to Hewitt. Like, how? Yeah. I don't know.
He wasn't our best. Wasn't our worst. Potentially wasn't in our top 10 players. But do you really expect a lockdown defender whose job isn't really to have rebound 50s to be in your top 10 players? I thought, I know this is going to be, this is going to divide opinion, and there's been very different opinions to mine, but I thought he played a fine game today. I thought he was just smack down the middle, a 5 out of 10 today, because I thought he hit the contest hard. I thought he was accountable in defence, and yeah, he didn't use the ball well, but you've got Sard, Williams, Doherty, Newman to do that for you, and even Jacob Wiedering. Like, he doesn't, in my opinion, he does not need to have that 16, 15, 17 touches a game, going at 80+%, having scoring involvements. Like, he doesn't need to do that. Yeah, I think he's a victim of trauma in a way, because we've been not conditioned, but it's easier to find a scapegoat and pick out one player than it is to blame a whole team and blame some of your favourites. Like, I don't think I've seen one person criticise Matt Kennedy. Like, maybe that's overdramatic, but the criticism on Lockie Plowman has been far greater than the criticism on Matt Kennedy. And I know different circumstances. This is Kennedy's once-in-a-blue-moon bad game, whereas Plowman has been susceptible to below-par performances over the past couple of years. But I think Kennedy's game was much worse, and he had a much bigger negative impact on the game. And I love Kennedy. I love him. I think he endeared himself to me last year when he was the only player, well, him and Walsh were the only players to give a shit for the last 6 weeks of the season, right? So, and his first 3 rounds have been phenomenal, like absolutely exceptional. But you have to play it when it's there. And personally, Plowman was okay today. Players like a Matt Kennedy and a Jack Martin were below par. But again, he's a victim of trauma, like Plowman. But it is what it is. With that saying, I don't think he's best 22. Everyone being fit, I think if he's in that 26, like the 22 to 26, 6th best player, I think we're in a pretty good spot. Similar to like Jack Nunes and the like, but I think it's I mean, I don't really know there's much more to say.
I don't know. I just came out of that and thought, look, they all played pretty average, that back line, and you know, like we said with Kennedy, most of those goals came from the middle. If you're going to point out someone, and look, like, you know, Kennedy's been terrific, but if you're looking at this individual game, he's probably one of those players who probably let through a couple goals. Yeah. So I just think it was a bit harsh to look at individuals in that back line, and no one stood out. No one stood out terrifically unless you look at at Zach Williams. He's the only one you could pass off. Marvia Chol and a kick 3. And I'm sure everyone thought this. Malcolm Roses, who is this guy, and why is he having a field day against us?
It's what we do.
There's always one of them.
It's what we do. We give players careers. We're a charity. Come on. That's why I said, so pre-recording, right? That's why I said next week, Finlayson's going to come in and kick 8, because that's what we do. We give careers to players. We give out contracts. That's what we do. And Roses now he's an AFL player out of nowhere.
I seriously don't understand. I had no clue who this bloke was.
That's what we do. David Teague has imprint. I mean, it's not even Teague. We did it under Bolton as well. Yeah. And even, bro, we've done it since Ratton. We just give players careers. It's because we're nice. That's what it is. We're too nice.
It's terrible. We'll move on. Jack Martin. I think we can probably all agree it needs a bit of time in the reserves. And I just... Look, I didn't think he was terrible, but I think I sort of, after the 3rd quarter, I sort of stopped paying attention like heaps.
Yes.
I don't know. He was. Yeah, he just isn't making enough. He's just not doing enough. Like, he actually gets his hands on the ball. He just doesn't do a lot with it. Like, he's one of those players.
If you put Jack Martin into Melbourne and allow him to be what he is, he could be one of the best players in the comp, because he's so talented, but he's luxury, right? And we haven't found a system that can accommodate him yet. And we saw in the Richmond game, he pretty much won us the game. He was ridiculous in that last quarter. Very influential. He has those moments and he has those quarters where he can rip a game apart. Today wasn't his day, and he doesn't. His day is very sparse, but he is the beneficiary of a good system. Once we get our system, because our system's good, it's not perfect, as we saw today. We got carved open and we couldn't score. Once we get our system fine-tuned and nailed, and it's a top 4 system which we think that we can create from the players that we've got, I think Jack Martin will then start to come into his own. Because he's a luxury player, he's a burst player who isn't going to provide you that full-quarter effort. And we knew that when we got him, because that's what he was. That's what we were buying. It's not like a Mitch McGovern where we thought we were buying a forward and now he's an All-Australian defender. All-Australian. I think All-Australian he'll be anyway. We bought Jack Martin for what he is, and we just need to find the system to accommodate him, which hopefully is sooner rather than later, because he was, I'm not sure if he still is, but he was on big bucks. So.
Oh, you'd think he still is, honestly. I always like it, and even from that round 1 game, 20, yeah, like, I mean, just straight away, he's got a very good presence on the football field. I think it's probably not the worst week for him to have a week off next week, because Port's backline is pretty tall compared to most backlines in the comp, they've got a pretty tall backline, so it wouldn't be the worst to have an extra, a real small there to just crumb, and we'd probably beat him a lot more on the ground than we would in the air. That's my prediction, at least for next week. And let's look forward. Let's just talk about a lot of things. I think, I'm sure a lot of people tuned into Terry's fan cams. I think a lot of people are sort of, the main thing going into next week is this will show us what they're really made of. I'm thinking of a lot of things. I'm thinking media pressure, because this will be quite huge. And I said to you pre-podcast, I said this will be really embarrassing for them to lose. Yeah. Because I do personally, I don't rate Port Adelaide. I mean they're 0-4 for a reason. I don't know, the second-hand embarrassment of walking it. I can't go on Sunday, but just watching and being like, oh my God, we just made them 1-4.
We have to win.
We have to win, yeah.
Have to win.
You have to win it.
I was going to say non-negotiable, but it's got to be close to if it isn't, right? Because
I think it's non-negotiable. I don't.
But they meant to play them last year.
Yeah.
It's a thing of this game does one of two things. It kills their season off, and almost sacks Kenny Clear.
Yeah.
Or it reinvigorates them and they make finals. Does one of two things. Because for us, if we lose, not the end of the world in terms of we're 3-2, we've beaten good sides, like that type of thing. We can rebound. Yeah. If Port lose, season's done. If they win, they're back on track. So, and we know that they're going to be coming in red hot because they were embarrassed this week against Melbourne. So, and they were embarrassed. They weren't embarrassed in the showdown, but they should have won that game. So they're going to be coming out looking for blood, and we got to be on from minute 1 because they won't let up. There's going to be no give in that game. There's going to be no give. That's going to be real. That's going to be intense. That game, really intense.
I'm glad it's in Melbourne. I mean, Same. If it was in Adelaide, look, it shouldn't be that way when we're still thinking, it's in Adelaide, it's a loss. Like, you should still be wanting to go over there and win. We can't play
Metricon, so
it's still very relieving. It's in Melbourne. I'm never ever confident against them, and I don't rate them as a team, but they're still better than us. I still think they have a better list than us, to be quite honest. I mean, I guess it's taken them to 2 prelims. Yeah. I just don't think they just haven't clicked this season. I still think the individuals in that team, at least maybe they've leveled down a bit, but They know what it takes to win.
Yeah. I mean, their guns are some of the best. Like, you look at Gray, Boak, Wines, like that. Maybe not midfield Gray, but like Boak, Wines, very good. And then I'm hearing rumours that Gray might be back, I think, and Leo has made some sort of resurrection, and he'll be back as well. So
they'll be back. Don't worry.
Yeah,
Mate.
They'll be back. Finn Mason will come in and kick 8. I can guarantee.
Chad Wingard was meant to be out for 3 weeks, and he came back against us.
There you
go. Back.
Yeah. So yeah. Hopefully Dixon doesn't gets a prosthetic leg and plays. I think he's out definitively. I'm pretty sure. But yeah, they've really been exposed with their lack of Dixon and Aaliyah. I think with Dixon, they've got no one forward, and with Aaliyah, they're struggling with the contest forward, like the forward 50 when it comes in, when the heat's on. They don't have that bloke that can just come in, punch it over, or take an intercept mark. So again, the midfield battle is huge because they got smacked in the midfield battle against Hawthorn. They dominated the midfield battle against Hawthorn, but they couldn't capitalise. So if we just take away that form of offense or that score launch type situation, we can really kick on from there. And I'm assuming Cripps will miss. I'm assuming that based on the fact that he was subbed out. So now we have a full week of preparation against a very good midfield without Cripps. Let's see what Chera, Hewitt, Kennedy, Walsh. Maybe it's time for Paddy Dow. Maybe it's time for Liam. Maybe not Liam Stocker, but definitely Paddy Dow. I'd be shocked if he's not included straight for Cripps, assuming he's out. So it's going to be a very interesting game. Hopefully we can turn up. We need to turn up.
Well, we talk about you spoke about a key to the game. I think, I watched, I'd say 50% of that Melbourne game. I think it's important. I reckon it would probably be very important to play a smaller forward line, purely because as soon as Mick got brought into Melbourne's forward line, they wanted to bring it to ground straight away. They were very prominent with that. I hope Durden comes back in, and I know it was COVID related, but honestly, you never know anymore. And the thing with that is you never know who's actually going to go out. I'm sure there'll be someone who you don't expect to go out who will leave. Yes. So I think a small forward line is the way to go. Not all smalls, but
do you bring Pito back in? If he's fit.
You have to.
But then again, how does that work? Do you take him out for the coning, or do you make your side taller? Because we'll who's their ruckman? I actually don't know.
Lycett's out. So he's out. I think. I don't know.
I've never known. Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know that backup. I think Laddams. Is it Laddams?
Didn't he leave? I think he left. I think he went to Sydney.
Did he? Oh,
who knows? This isn't the pair, so we don't know. Apologies. So yeah, probably I don't know. Jay Schultz will play full forward. Fucking who knows? But I think Pito proved. It was shown today how important Pito is. So I think you do make that change. I think you do bring in Dow, assuming Cripps is out. And I think Durden's in. Lockie Fogarty didn't play that well today.
No, he didn't play too great.
So maybe that's an option. It's tricky. What are the conditions like? Because if it's going to be wet, rainy, and horrible, then you'd think. So it says 26 and sunny. So
that's all right.
It's so tough. But I'll tell you another thing. This game is so crucial for both teams, but it's pretty crucial externally. Do you reckon, I'll pose this question to you, do you reckon within the four walls that the hype around this game is going to be the same as it is externally?
Oh, that's interesting. I think Port Adelaide, yes. I think us, no. And that's probably just Voss's mindset. I think he'll try to drive out the hype a lot. Yeah. I think it will be very business based.
Just do your job.
you get your 4 points, you get out. Not like, whereas Port Adelaide, I could imagine it's, oh boys, you fucked this up. It's season over.
Yeah.
You win, or you're gonna put like, I think you got two different camps in a way.
Yeah.
So it's interesting, and look, this is it's like, it's even just a weird time slot. Like, it's just not
1:10 on a
like
Sunday.
like it's just not even the right like setting for it. It just feels like a.
I mean, we got 66,000 against the Hawks, so hopefully that it can be similar.
Well, bit of news relating to that we're meant to be getting some prime time slots in the next.
There you go.
Next batch of fixtures apparently finalised next week. But actually, I just want to go back a bit, completely changing off. We were talking about lineups. We didn't talk about Lewis Young, and I think he played extremely poor. Now I think about it.
It wasn't his best game.
I don't know if that's a.
It's weird. Last week I thought he played well.
Yeah.
Do you agree with that?
To be honest, I didn't watch a lot of last week's game, so I can't make a very good judgment on that.
Okay. Last week he played well for his role. Like, if you ask most fans how did Lewis Young play, they would have said, yeah, he played right. He played fine. Didn't do anything great. Didn't do anything below par. Had some fantastic moments. Took some good marks. Came into his own as the game progressed. Now, today he was poor. Now, is that a conditions-based thing? Obviously, we know the Gold Coast is very dewy, especially as it gets. The later it is, the worse it is in terms of conditions. Obviously, it's going to be 1:10 Sunday Arvo, not a cloud in the sky, hopefully. So that does lend itself to a more key defender-friendly game. Yeah, hopefully he can rebound, because he is battling with Oscar McDonald for that spot. So, assuming both are fit, who do you pick right now?
Out of Omac and Lewis Young, it depends who their opponent is next week, and I can't even. The problem is I can't think of that off the top of my head. But
it'd probably be Marshall, Georgiades, and Finlayson. Finlayson kicked 6 in the Sandful, so I'm assuming he'll come in.
If it's Finlayson, probably Omac. I think he's just a bit too inexperienced, young. But I don't know. That's the problem. I don't think I have a full judgment of him yet.
Yeah.
And he's still young. And I think, literally.
Is
he?
Is he? How old is Lewis Young?
I don't know. I think he's. Oh, actually, I'm not even going to take a guess, just in case I'm completely off.
Yes. All right. I'll get it.
I'm going to say he looks no older than 23.
Okay.
I'm going to go with 22.
He is 23.
23. Right.
Close enough. Yeah. So he's Lewis Young. So I think. I mean, it's really tough, because you can't go in with all three. I don't think that's viable, especially Young and McDonald. I do think Dove, Omac, or Young and Wiedering works, and I think Omac, Young, and Gov should Wiedering drop. I fingers crossed he doesn't, but should Wiedering drop out, I do think you can play Young and McDonald together with Gov. I think it would be slightly weaker, obviously.
Yeah.
But I think you can do that. And then I don't think you can play Wiedering, Omac, Young. I don't think you can do that.
No, I
would rather have Kemp, Plowman, Newman even playing that third tour or that intercept play.
Well, how far away is Gov?
They said 3 or 4 weeks, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. And was that at the end of round 2?
Yeah.
So
he's missed 2. So you'd think maybe
probably wouldn't be next week.
No. Unless he does a Chad Wingard-esque return. Come on, Andrew Russell. You're on $65 million a year, apparently.
Maybe if Chad Wingard can make a 1 week recovery, if Tom Hickey can make a 1 week recovery for a 6 week injury, well, he'd go to it.
Yeah. PCO is back in 1 week.
1 week.
Well, didn't Trent McKenzie do his knee and then played the next week and then got injured again?
I don't remember Trent McKenzie doing that, but I'm sure he did.
It was early this year. I don't know. It was up around 1. I think. Anyway, that reminds me of some things. Yeah, just I remember, completely unrelated. Novak Djokovic apparently tore his abdomen in a match like 2 years ago, and then played out the rest of the game and won. And then he was like, "Oh, I'm fine." So, mate, these sports stars do some miraculous recovery.
Yeah, they do some weird things, and they end up in some documentary, and we're meant to believe all of them.
Yeah.
So,
sports stars are the pinnacle of society. We know that.
Final predictions. Look, what's your major key to the game, and what's your final prediction?
Major key to the game is to not give a contract out to another has-been. That would help.
That's true. Yeah.
But I reckon, on a serious note, obviously the midfield battle is massive, and I want to see how the midfield respond, because now, again, we're assuming no Cripps from the get-go, so there's no excuse to be like, oh, we're missing our captain. You've had a whole week to prepare for that. And then also, should Pito miss again, you've got a whole week to prepare for that as well. So to see how the midfield respond, and see how the keys, Charlie and Harry, to see how they respond, because they weren't as impactful as they potentially could have been today. So if they can respond and kick 8-9 between them, they will go a long way. And yeah, the midfield battle is huge. I also wouldn't mind seeing someone go to Ollie Wines. I know
he's out. He's out. Yeah, he's.
Oh yeah,
the heart condition or something. So he's 2-3 weeks. He's out.
Okay, so that makes it a lot easier.
But it kills that we don't have Cripps, because it's like. Yeah. You lost. But anyways,
maybe you don't send someone to Wines, because that would be really unfair. If you just had someone following him, but. I was surprised that Hewitt didn't go to Took straight away. I saw Hewitt on Real at some stoppages. I was a little bit 50-50 as to why that happened. But yeah, to stop rambling, it's midfield battle to see how they respond, and to see how Charlie and Harry respond. What about on your end?
Well, no. Firstly, pretty well. Who wins it by how much?
Carlton win by. I want to put my neck on the line. I said 48 points this week, so I was nearly 70 points off. I've gone real. So round 1 and 2, I went cautious. I went under 2-3 goals. Against Hawthorn, I went, I think, 50 points. Against Gold Coast, I went like 40. So I'm going to go Carlton by 3 points. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Okay, and it's going to be Jack Silvani after the siren.
After the siren.
Yeah, to stick it to Robbie Gray.
If that happens, this clip's gone absolutely
viral.
Absolutely viral.
Imagine, mate. I don't think the G would hear noise like that ever again.
It'd be insane. Absolutely insane. To be fair, we have a good record on Easter Sunday.
Do we?
I think so. Because I just haven't. I can never go to them. We beat Bulldogs by. This is 2019. We beat Bulldogs in that game where we kicked 100.
Yeah, Walsh after
the siren.
Yeah.
2020 must have been locked down. Yeah. 21 was the Freo smashing.
Yeah, it was.
So we have a good record, at least for the last couple of years. Anyway, so I'll quickly move on. My key, I think we need to beat them early. I reckon scoreboard pressure will kill them straight away. Because their confidence is already rock bottom. So you kill them straight away, they'll know. They'll know
take him out.
You can't do a Hawthorn and get up and go back in.
Foot on throat,
Tip. Look, I think Port always find a way against us. And
confidence, please.
No, but look, and this is with footy tipping. I never tip us because I don't know what it's like. Double positive, whatever it is, where like you get your team loses, you get a tip.
Yeah.
So I always tip against.
Yeah. So if those don't know, it's if you tip for your own team, you either your team wins and you get a tip, or your team loses and you lose a tip. Where if it's tip against, it's a win-win. So
it's a win-win, exactly. So look, we should win, but I'm traumatized. Look, I don't.
PTSD.
I see Port Adelaide and I think sick that they're going to beat us by like a really shitty 3 to 4 goals that makes the score look like we've been in the game, but we haven't.
40 points halfway through the last, but then we kick 3 in a row.
Kick 3. I don't know. If we're up at half time, we win by 14. If we're down at half time, we lose by quite a lot, by 30. That's the way I see it. I think it will seriously be who gets on top quicker. I don't think it's a game. It will be a game where a team comes back from a margin. I think whoever gets on top will stay on top.
Yep, I think that's a possibility. Also, the third quarter is massive because I don't think we've won a third quarter. Well, we definitely did win today.
We barely won any quarters. I mean,
I know. Yeah, we win one a quarter every game and just win the game. Except today, of course. But I think I agree with whoever stays on top, or whoever gets on top stays on top, and hopefully we can do what we did against Hawthorn and kick. What was it 8 of the first 7 or 7 of the first 8?
Fingers crossed.
That'd be handy, wouldn't it?
The more we talk about it, the worse I feel. So.
Yeah. Just the more anxious you get. It's well, now it's Monday. Well, it's Sunday, but and I'm already nervous about a game that's happening in a week. Oh, great. This is going to be the longest week. Oh God. A week's a long time in footy.
It is a week.
This time a week ago, we were thinking, fuck, Flaggers, mate, top 4 in the bag.
I hated that we played on I swear it didn't feel like we played last Sunday. It felt like an eternity ago.
Yeah, I don't mind Sunday because then if we lose, it's like tomorrow. Yeah, it's like tomorrow I'll wake up, I've got things to do. And then Tuesday I've got uni, so it's all right, I'll go get my mind off it. Whereas if we lose on a Thursday night, it's like I've got to watch the whole weekend of footy, watching other teams win, and thinking, why can't my team do that?
Okay.
There you go.
Well, thank you for joining me. It was a good little chat, and hopefully all the listeners, we've boosted your mood after a
shit performance.
Shit performance, but look, we look forward, and to be honest, we haven't been in this position where I would take 3-1 over 2-2 or 1-3. So.
Exactly.
Fingers crossed. Let me know what your thoughts were of the round 4 clash and what are your predictions for round 5. Thank you for joining me, Ari.
Thanks for having me.
And until then, go Blues.
Can't Blues.